All right, welcome back. Today we're digging into an ancient prophecy that has a warning that feels, well, surprisingly modern. It all boils down to one simple question.
And we're going to explore that very question by diving into this super dramatic prophecy from an ancient text, 2 Nephi 20. It's a story all about power, about pride, and, the huge difference between being the tool and being the one who actually wields it. Okay, so to really get what's going on here, we first need to meet the key players in this divine drama. So the whole story kicks off with a nation that's in some serious moral trouble. The prophecy actually calls Israel a hypocritical nation. Why? Because they're making all these unjust laws that basically turn their backs on the people who need help the most. The poor, widows, and orphans. They've just completely lost their way. Okay, so to bring about some judgment, a really powerful instrument gets chosen. The Assyrian Empire. They are literally called the rod of mine anger, a tool sent to correct Israel, who are now being called the people of my wrath. Assyria's mission? It's crystal clear. Conquer them, humble them, and tread them down like the mire of the streets.
But here's where the story takes a really fascinating turn. The weapon. It starts to get a mind of its own.
The text makes this really crucial point. It says about the Assyrian king, "He meaneth not so, neither doth his heart think so." Basically, he has absolutely no idea he's just a tool in some grand divine plan. Nope. In his mind, his goal is just to destroy and cut off nations, not a few. He's a conqueror, plain and simple. That's his whole identity. And man, is he proud of what he's done. He straight up boasts that all his success comes from his own military power, his own brilliant strategies. He totally sees himself as this self-made man, a mighty conqueror who's single-handedly changing the world. And get this. This next part just perfectly shows his arrogance. He compares conquering entire nations to just collecting abandoned eggs from a nest. Think about that. It's totally effortless, completely unopposed. In his mind, the whole world is just there for the taking, and nobody can even make a peep to stop him. So this incredible, almost unbelievable pride, it leads us right to this central metaphor, the absolute turning point of this whole prophecy. And this is where the text just delivers this stunning takedown with a series of rhetorical questions. Shall the axe boast itself against him that heweth wherewith? I mean, seriously, can a saw claim it's more powerful than the person pushing and pulling it? The whole idea is just absurd, and it's meant to perfectly expose how foolish the king's pride really is. And this is the whole point, right? Assyria has completely forgotten this principle of instrumentality. The axe has started to believe it's the Axman. It's confusing its temporary job for having the ultimate power. Well, that level of arrogance, it just can't go unanswered, right? So what happens to this prideful instrument? As they say, what goes up must come down. And the prophecy is super clear about this. Once God has performed his whole work using Assyria as his tool, he's going to turn his attention to the tool itself. The text says God will punish the fruit of the stout heart of the king of Assyria. Yep, the weapon itself is about to be held accountable for its own arrogance. Now, check out the powerful, almost poetic imagery used to describe Assyria's downfall. The empire, which was once this mighty forest, is going to be consumed by a divine fire. All its glory gets devoured in one day, a total destruction of both soul and body, until there's almost nothing left. So let's recap. The hypocritical nation has been humbled, and the arrogant tool has been broken. So what's the final result for the people of Israel? Well, the text promises that even though the people of Israel were once as numerous as the sand of the sea, a huge number, only a small group, a remnant, will actually survive this whole period of judgment and return. And this is the huge lesson they learned through all that suffering. This humbled remnant, they're not going to put their trust in powerful, oppressive empires like Assyria anymore. No way. Instead, they finally learned to rely on God in truth because they've seen the downfall of both the corrupt and the arrogant. Okay, so you might be thinking, why does this ancient story about Israel and Assyria matter to us today? Well, the text itself tells us to look for a deeper, recurring meaning. You see, the introduction to the chapter explains that this entire story, Assyria rising up as a tool of judgment and then falling because of its own pride, is what's called a type. It's a symbolic pattern for how the wicked will be destroyed at some future final judgment. In other words, it's a story that happens over and over again. And that leaves us with this timeless question, doesn't it? In our own lives, in our own societies, who really holds the power? Is it the impressive tool, that technology, the wealth, the army? Or is it the unseen hand that's actually wielding it? This story suggests the answer is a lot more complicated than we think, and that the axe should probably never, ever forget the Axeman.